नानाशास्त्रविचारेकनिपुनो सह धर्मसंस्थापकं लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने महन्यो शरण्याकरो राधाकृष्णपदारविन्द्रभजना नन्देन मत्तालिकयो वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको. So we welcome everyone back again for our discussion on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We're resuming it after a break. Before the break, we discussed about the chapter 5 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the purity of devotional service. This concludes the discussion on the different attributes that Srila Rupa Goswami wanted to present to us on the subject of bhakti. Now he begins. Theory is done. Now begins practice. A very important question. How to discharge devotional service? That brings us to the lesson 11, where now Srila Rupa Goswami is going to introduce 64 Angas of Bhakti. Hare Krishna. And he says it as follows, or he writes it as follows. 1.2.72. Hari Bhakti Vilase Asya Bhaktir Angani Lakshanaha Kintu Tani Prasidhani Niridishyante Yathamati. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, innumerable young Angas of Bhakti are mentioned. Among those, the most famous ones will be explained to the best of my judgment. Can you just get one volume of Hari Bhakti Vilas from my room? It's on my second bookshelf on the right, on the top. What is Hari Bhakti Vilas? That's not my subject matter, but just because Srila Rupa Goswami said, there are many Angas are described, I've just selected from it. Does anyone know? In Nectar of Instruction, text number 5 and text number 6, I extensively quoted from Hari Bhakti Vilas while describing the subject matter of. So, Hari Bhakti Vilas, written by Srila Sanatana Goswami. This is the complete guidebook which documents everything about practice of bhakti and which contains of thousands and thousands of references for topic by topic. Hari Bhakti Vilas, written by Srila Sanatana Goswami, assisted by Srila Gopal Bhatt Goswami, if I'm correct with that, like this. So here, the subject matter, what is being discussed in chapter 6 is also talked about. And Srila Rupa Goswami says, from there I have shortlisted and highlighted 64 Angas. Let's take a look at what are the 64 Angas. So that is what is being mentioned. So just to make you a little familiar with your book, chapter number 6, the first paragraph talks about, let's read the first paragraph. Anyone would like to read the first paragraph? Chapter 6. You can kindly raise your hand. I can call upon your name. Vidyapati Prabhu, please go ahead.
Srila Rupa Goswami states that his elder brother Sanatan Goswami has compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of the Vaishnava, and therein has mentioned many rules and regulations to be followed by the Vaishnavas. Some of them are very important and prominent, and Srila Rupa Goswami will now mention these very important items for our benefit. The purport of this statement is that Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to mention only basic principles, not details. For example, a basic principle is that one has to accept a spiritual master. Exactly how one follows the instructions of his spiritual master is considered a detail. For example, if one is following the instructions of his spiritual master, and that instruction is different from the instructions of another spiritual master, this is called detailed information. but the basic principle of acceptance of a spiritual master is good everywhere, although the details may be different. Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Rupa
Hare Krishna.
Goswami is sharing the 64 principles or angas of bhakti. That is the point which is mentioned. He's not getting into the details. That is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, why he shortlisted. And what are those 64 items? So those are being described in the next paragraph onwards. So the next paragraph offers the 20 items, the first primary items, and then like that, unto the next page, it goes on with all those list of items. You see that? So this whole chapter just introduces you what are the 64 items. So you may take it for your personal reading. What are the 64 items? And next chapter, chapter number 7, begins to talk about all of these items one by one. Just to make you familiar, I'll show all these items in our presentation. So let's take a presentation. Hare Krishna. Yes. So what are these items? Let's take a look at it. So, how to discharge devotional service? Therefore, 64 items of sadhana bhakti, of which 20 items are considered of importance, and whereas 44 are additional items of seva. What are these 20 items of importance? In that, there is pravritti karma and also nivritti karma. We'll take a look at it. And among 44 additional items of service, there are items of sadhana, and then there are 5 most effective items. So 20 items of importance, which means pravritti and nivritti. So which means things to do and things not to do. These are the things which are establishing our actions. And then there are 44 additional items of service. These are not same, huh? Subdivisions. This is not seva. This is about karma, what to do, what not to do. And then there are action items for service. In that 44 action items service, there are 5 most effective items. That is how Srila Rupa Goswami have described it. Let's take a look at 10 activities to accept. So, all right. We have a mic here. Papi Pro can read it out next. So, please read out the 10 activities to accept. What are these 10 items?
10 activities to accept. 1. Shri Guru Padashraya, taking shelter at the lotus feet of Shri Guru. 2. Shri Krishna Diksha Sikshadi, receiving initiation and spiritual instruction. 3. Preet Purvaka Guru Seva, serving Shri Guru with love. 4. Sadhu Marganusara, following the path of the sadhus. 5. Bhajana Riti Niti Prashna, questions about the procedures of bhajana. 6. Krishnarte Akila Bhoge Tyaga, renunciation of all material enjoyment for the sake of Krishna. 7. Tirtha Vasa, Tirtha Mahatmya Shravanam Cha, to live in a sacred place and to hear the greatness of such places.
So, तीर्थवास, तीर्थ महात्म्य. तो तीर्थवास तभी होना चाहिए जब तीर्थ में महात्म्य श्रवणम, उस तीर्थ की गुणगान को सुने. That's the point. Okay, go ahead.
8. Swabhakti Nirvahana Rupa Bhojanadi Swikaram, accepting only what is required for the sustenance of bhakti. 9. Shri Ekadashi Vrata, observing vow on Ekadashi. 10. Ashwatha Tulasi Dhatri Go Brahmana Vaishnava Sammanam, offering respect to the Ashwatha, Tulasi, Amalaki tree, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the Vaishnavas.
So, these are 10 activities to be done and the 10 activities to avoid. What are the 10 activities to avoid?
11. Asadhu Sangha Tyaga, giving up the association of non-devotees. 12. Bahu Sishya Karana Tyaga, to give up the desire to make many disciples. Bahu Aramba Tyaga, giving up too many undertakings. Bahu Shastra Vyakya Vividadi Tyaga, renouncing the study of many scriptures in order to make novel explanations and arguments. 15. Vyavahara Karpanya Tyaga, giving up miserly behavior. 16. Shoka Krodhadi Tyaga, giving up lamentation, anger, etc. 17. Devatantara Ninda Tyaga, giving up blasphemy and disrespect of other devatas. 18. Pramatre Udve, Udvega Tyaga, giving up harassment of other living entities. 19. Seva Parada Nama Parada Tyaga, giving up all offenses in regard to Seva and Nama. 20. Guru Krishna Bhakta Ninda Sahana Tyaga. One should not tolerate blasphemy of Sri Guru, Sri Krishna, or the devotees.
Hare Krishna. So these are mentioned in your book in chapter 6 in the second paragraph until the next page. And then comes the 10 items are these 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge devotional service. Next page paragraph and regulatory principles. In the beginning, if a neophyte observes the above mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make advancement. And then there are next set of instructions, which are the 44 set of instructions. As I said, this is an homework for all of you to read it. We're going to talk about it in a short while. And they all are classified as following. Whole body items, there are 11 items, etc. Tadiya Seva, mixed, so these are the some subdivisions. We'll take a look. And among all these 44, which are many, many items, which all items to really do, which all items to pay attention. So Srila Rupa Goswami himself says, well, there are 5 most potent items which we all should be adhering or following. What is that? Please repeat after me. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravana Mathuravaasa Srimurti Rashadhaya Sevana. So, sadhu sangha. What are the most essential principles? So, angas of bhakti, sadhu sangha. One must regularly associate with sadhus. Namakirtan should chant the holy name of the Lord. Bhagavad Shravan, one should hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Mathuravas should reside in a holy place. Shri Murtira Shraddhaya, Sevan, and render service to the deities with faith and veneration. These are the 5 most important subject matter. And with that, we come to chapter number 7. Chapter number 7 to chapter number 13, the discussion are on these 64 items. Okay, so let's begin our discussion from chapter number 7. Evidence regarding devotional principles. So, first, any 19 items are covered. What are the first 18 items? These are the next 44. These are the first. Shri Guru Padashraya. So that would be described. So very first item, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So let's read the from the book few points here. Please go ahead. Who has a mic? Accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabuddha tells Maharajinimi, my dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss.
So please start marking 1, 2, 3, 4. So accepting the shelter of the bona fide spiritual master is the first. So very important paragraph. The reason why I read it, Prabhupada mentioned addresses 2 points here. When to accept Guru and why to select Guru. And also who is a Guru. Let's go back to the presentation again. Prabhupada is going to quote here. Srila Rupa Goswami lists most crucial items first. Following this one principle opens the door to all 63 other items of sadhana, because the spiritual master will instruct one about the execution and significance of them all. The importance of this item becomes clear by considering the evidence Srila Rupa Goswami quotes to substantiate. So, my question to all of you, when to accept Guru? When should one take, or when should one accept a spiritual master? What does Prabhupada says on this, or what Srila Rupa Goswami says? The qualification is mentioned, but what is a qualification of disciple? When should he go and accept spiritual master? When to accept spiritual master? Beginning of what? Beginning of what stage of consciousness? When? You see in the beginning? My dear king, please know for certain in the material world there is no happiness. It's simply a mistake to think that there is a happiness here because this place is full of misery, nothing but miserable condition. You see, Professor, any person who is seriously desires of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master. So, when to seek out a bona fide spiritual master? When one is disgusted with material life. When to seek out? When one is disgusted with material life. Therefore, Papa said, do not make a spiritual master as your pet dog. Then, why to select spiritual master? It is also mentioned because only the spiritual master, everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life. Which is so, such a spiritual master alone can educate us on the subject of absolute truth. And who is a guru? That is also mentioned in the first paragraph. The qualification of spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion. You see in the middle of the purport, first paragraph? Must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus he be able to convince others of these conclusions. They have taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no more material activity. So they have taken bath in Shabde, that is spiritual sound. So that's the point which is mentioned. Let's go back to the presentation. Therefore, Guru Pad Ashraya, taking shelter of Guru. Please repeat. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Pare Cha Nishnatam Brahmani Upashamashrayam Shabde Pare Cha Nishnatam. So his consciousness is fully based by spiritual sound. Therefore, Gurum Prapadyeta, go and take shelter of the spiritual master. Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. Jigyasu, he can satisfy all your jigyasa with the highest spiritual knowledge. Please repeat Mundaka Upanishads. These are a quotation from Upanishads. Tad vijnanatam sagurum eva vikachat samit panihi shrutiyam brahmanishtam. So, why to accept such a master? To understand these things properly, one must humbly approach with the firewood in hand, not to burn firewood. That's not the idea. A spiritual master who is learned in the Vedas and firmly devoted to the absolute truth. So, what to do after accepting spiritual master? What to do after accepting spiritual master? Adau Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Then engage in devotional service. So, that's the subject matter of accepting the shelter of bona fide spiritual master. All right. Any clarification on that? Let's go to the next item. Accepting initiation from the spiritual master and receiving instructions from him. So then after initiation, acquiring knowledge. Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshana. After rejecting material life and taking shelter of a spiritual master, one must accept him with full faith. Please read. Diksha.
Diksha is the spiritual master's formal acceptance of the disciple's commitment and faith. Without this commitment, a disciple cannot possess the unyielding faith required to properly assimilate the spiritual instructions of his guru. Srila Prabhupada explains, one should learn Srimad Bhagavatam seriously and with all respect and veneration from the spiritual master.
So Diksha. Dik means divine knowledge. Sha means destroy sinful reaction. So what does Diksha do? Diksha installs spiritual vision and destroys material contamination. So शिक्षा is also very much required. तस्मात् कृष्ण दीक्षाति शिक्षणम. तो दीक्षा तो हो गई. दीक्षा के बाद क्या है? शिक्षा. शिक्षा is also required. So if the point is, if shiksha is what is required ultimately, then what is the need for diksha? An example is given by Srila Prabhupada in this regard. Just like when a student registers in a university, he becomes bona fide to receive or attend classes. Similarly, this is a process of diksha by which one is now ready to receive instructions. because he had voluntarily signed up. He's chosen to sign up for this program. Now you take an exam of you take an admission in engineering college. You cannot make क्यों कराई मुझे admission देने के बाद मुझे धोखा दे दिया बहुत पढ़ाई कराते हो. If you take an admission particular high notch college, that's what is going to happen. That's the idea about it. So the attitude of the disciple should be to satisfy the bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada writes in the book. It will be very easy for him to understand spiritual knowledge. So that's the second principle. The third principle is serving the spiritual master with faith and confidence. Vishrambhena Guru Seva. Service to Guru with respect. Please read.
Srila Rupa Goswami supports this with a famous verse in which Krishna states that the Acharya should be accepted as the Lord's very self. Understanding the importance of service to the Supreme Lord and knowing the spiritual master to be non different from him, the disciple must serve the Guru with strong faith.
So, service to Guru with respect is mentioned. How can we serve Guru with respect? What is the prerequisite? What is required before that to happen? To be able to really serve with respect, what is needed? For example, many of you, not many of you in others, any householder would have a maid come to the home, or else you go to your IT job. Same thing, working for somebody else. Now, you're also rendering service. Is it rendered with respect or out of fear? Is it done out of respect or fear? It is out of fear. Because if I don't do my service, then I'll be fired, I'll be chastised. Either be the housemaid coming to the house or anyone going out and working. But it's a service with respect. Because here there is no monetary remuneration. So service with respect. Now, in what situation can you develop respect? How do you develop respect? How do we develop respect? Huh? No, it's not because of position.
When you develop love,
When you develop love, how
by
what is
gratitude.
how what's the procedure for developing respect? We develop respect by hearing from a sadhu. So when we regularly hear, then only respect develops. So coming back to the subject matter, slide please. And the subject matter is serve to Guru with respect. So first of all, you might have seen, or those of you who are mentors and guide for others, you might have advised or you might have received the guidance yourself. If you're accepting somebody as a spiritual master, at least once in a week you should hear from him to continue that relationship. Otherwise, we'll be lost. Now, in our ISKCON scenario, many of us would not have an opportunity to directly serve the spiritual master. So, how do we follow this instruction? We have followed the first instruction, accepting a bona fide spiritual master. All right. And then we have accepted initiation for spiritual master, those of you are initiated. And now, how do we follow the third instruction? Vishambhena Gurus Seva. How do we serve spiritual master in our ISKCON scenario?
Prabhuji, by following the instructions of the Gurus.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What else?
By following his mission.
Okay. What else?
By assisting in many, for example, giving some Lakshmi the projects where Gurudev is doing the projects, they're assisting in Lakshmi and so
Okay.
many.
What else?
Following local.
Yeah, go back to ISKCON disciple course. Answer is given there. So how do we
Vani
serve?
Seva.
How do we
Vani
serve
Seva.
our spiritual master? What does spiritual master wants? Ultimately the objective of any spiritual master for us is to become stable in our Krishna consciousness and eventually come back to Godhead. But because they're not personally present to guide us, that guidance we get it from our local community center. So visit any ISKCON temple and render service. Hearing is wonderful, but where do we render service? Now there should be some place where we render service, because wherever we render service, that's where we identify ourselves with. So we have to identify and connect with the local ISKCON centers where whom we can serve and become a part of the community. And that is how, we serve our spiritual master also. Of course, what all you said is correct, no doubt about it. But this is a very, very important aspect which should not be missed out. Okay, let's take one more next. Is following in the footsteps of saintly persons. And the next thing is sadhu vartamanu vartanam. Following the rules according to the scriptures as approved by acharyas. Please read.
We must follow not only our own spiritual master, but all bona fide sadhus and acharyas in the line of disciplic succession. There should be no dissension between the Guru's teachings and the teachings of Guru Parampara, since the qualification of the bona fide Guru is that he presents the scriptures strictly according to Guru Parampara. If he does not, adherence to him is not devotional service. Lord Buddha is an example. Even though he is the personality of Godhead himself, his followers are not practicing pure devotional service because, for circumstantial reasons, Buddha did not strictly present the scriptures according to Guru Parampara.
So there are two very important things are mentioned here. So sadhu, following the rules according to scriptures as approved by acharyas. So we must follow not only our own spiritual master, but all bona fide sadhus and acharyas in the line of disciplic succession. What can a disciple or what can a bhakta do if in case he receives two conflicting instructions, one from his spiritual master and one from his maybe temple president under whom he's serving, or maybe Shiksha Guru under whom he's serving? How do we resolve that? Now it says this is something like, uh, the case of Ashwathama. Yudhishthira said, Arjuna, leave him, and Yudhishthira and Draupadi and Bhimsen said, kill him. Both were opposite instruction, and Krishna said, fulfill both. you know, do the both. And Arjuna was perplexed. How do I do it? So how do we do? The instruction is sadhu vartmanu vartanam. So follow the sadhu. So my spiritual master says do this. My service authority or local inspiration, my Shiksha Guru, temple president, whatever you want to call him, he says something different. What do I do? Any suggestions? How do we resolve this? And what to speak of something if we hear from even a bona fide person, but if that person is or devotee is coming from different parampara and speaks something which is a little different than what we have understood in our parampara, how do we deal with that situation? First of all, should we hear or not hear a person from a bona fide guru or devotee from a different parampara? Should we hear or not hear?
We should not hear from.
Okay.
Prabhupada has given clear instruction. We should call him, but we should not hear from him.
Okay, because Prabhupada mentioned over here in the purport where it is mentioned we should not hear. What is mentioned is we should not hear from Mayavadis. Where is it mentioned that we should not hear from another parampara? Something we read just now here in the purport?
No, not proper. I think in the IDC course I have read somewhere.
Okay, IDC course, okay. All right. And you would like to, 2 points here. We're trying to follow the sadhu, but one sadhu is saying one thing, other sadhu is saying another thing. How do we resolve it? A second thing, what about if there is a bona fide sadhu, but that bona fide sadhu is from another parampara, and he may be emphasizing things which are a little different than what is being emphasized in our parampara. Let's say Sri Sampradaya, you start hearing from very profound, elevated personalities are there, and we start hearing from them, and they emphasize Narayan worship, Vaikuntha mood. And when you come in कहते हैं Gaudiya parampara, then there is Vraj Bhakti, and that's where you have taken initiation. So how do we reconcile these two situations? If I don't ask this question, then there is nothing for me to really teach you in this, because you can read by yourself. Reading the heading and reading the points, then there is no need for me. Therefore, I just kind of added these two questions. Vaikunth Prabhu, yes, waiting for you.
I haven't raised my hand.
I saw you unmuted, so I thought I'll call you upon.
Yeah, okay, but no, it's a very complicated question, bro. I was just thinking, jokingly, I was thinking, but that is different. Refer to a third guru.
Huh?
That's No, that's not the answer. I was just joking. But I said refer to a third guru.
Refer to
That is what I was then only in lighter vein I was telling. No, but this is a bit complicated. We'll have to go to our spiritual master only and get it clarified on this matter. When there's a clash between two persons, two sadhus, they are saying two different things. The best person to guide us will be our spiritual master, to whom we should go.
We should serve the temple related, local temple related problem first.
All right.
It consult.
Okay. Noted, Mother. Kanchal Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, on the point number 2, basically, like a chaste wife follows her husband, in the same way, we need to follow all the instructions and basic principles taught by a spiritual master. Once we are at the level of strong faith, we may hear to others, pay our respects and obeisances, but when it comes to following,
Are you
any
saying
instruction,
about
it needs to
hearing
be
from
followed.
outside of Parampara?
Yes, Prabhuji, hearing
Okay.
from outside of the parampara on that particular point. So, well, like a chaste wife needs to follow her husband, in the same way we need to follow our spiritual master. But when we are stable enough in our bhakti sadhana, then, and if we have heard enough from spiritual master, we may hear outside, pay respect. But again, when it comes to applying those principles, we have to come back to our spiritual master.
Okay. So the rule here, thank you for that answer. The rule here is we don't hear outside, first of all, unless we have the approval and permission to do so. We should not go for window shopping. That summarizes the whole subject matter for the second question. If there is a seva for the need of service, one need to hear, then it has been authorized. If not, we have chosen one path, then stick to it because that will lead to confusion. So much so we should not even go and hear from Gaudiya Math for that reason. Let's go and attend lecture here and there. That should not be done because it leads to confusion. Because not that they're saying something wrong. That's not the point here. The emphasis could be a little different. And because our faith is a little pliable and we get confused. Coming to the first question again. How do we reconcile when there are different set of instructions are coming? Vaikuntapati Prabhu made a very wonderful point. Go and check with your special master, which is true. What if the special master is not readily available? And then question may come, if not readily available, how can his instruction come? What if he emphasizes, comes and gives a Bhagavatam class and says, all of you should do book distribution. But then the temple president hears the class very nicely, but after the class ends, sends a message to all the congregation or to you. Imagine saying that, Prabhu, yes, book distribution is very necessary, but what to do? DT department is little struggling with bhaktas. So I would like on this marathon month, you should come and do DT services. We'll look for book marathon next year. What to do then? So as the IDC course define this thing, then we just follow the local authority if it is not entirely against. It is not something that the local authority is saying against the spiritual master. In that scenario, we follow. But something is really difficult, then Hare Krishna. Wait a second. Hare Krishna. So in that way, we do the needful thing. We don't make it a big issue. It's only an issue when in case there is something which is drastically said, which is really against the established principles of bhakti. Otherwise, we just do the needful thing. Is that okay, Vaikuntapati Prabhu? What do you say on that?
It all depends upon the circumstances, I believe. Here, So, for example, Guru comes and says, all of you do book distribution. Practically, it may not be possible for everyone to do book distribution. So,
Correct.
So that happens. So, in such cases, such disciples who are not good at book distribution, that also needs some amount of effort, art, everything is required in it. So these people can go to the deity, be assistants to the pujaris or
Correct.
something like that, do like that, In every temple, these types of situations will again and again keep coming up. It doesn't amount to a clash. And because they are doing something different from what the spiritual master has said of distributing the books, then here in this case we have gone by the local commander's request, and it becomes the local commander's request to make sure that this message is communicated to the spiritual master also, that this is what I have requested, so that the disciples don't get into a situation where they have not adhered to the instructions of their guru.
Very interesting point. Because in our system of ISKCON, guru-disciple relationship, or let's say in anywhere, it's always time, place, circumstances. If you go into this whole resolution on this subject matter, there's a resolution on the subject matter by the GBC body, and what resolution they have drawn as a documented thing, which you will see with the ISKCON Undisciple course also. If you read the extra material along with it, which mentions that any visiting sannyasi or a spiritual master, where when he, if it is not his base, but if he's a visiting preacher and he may have disciples there, then before making any request or making any suggestions to his disciples or to the community, he should ask the temple leader, how can I serve your community? So that there is an alignment between the spiritual master and the leader. Because the leader is also trying to serve Srila Prabhupada mission and the spiritual master also. But because spiritual master, that's not his base location, may not be familiar with the crisis and the challenges the leader faces there. If he comes and says the same message all over the place, then it will lead to a lot of issues. Therefore, this whole subject matter of spiritual master, I mean, I don't get into that discussion, but how everyone has to align ultimately to the managerial authority and then to Srila Prabhupada. And that hierarchy also needs to be understood. That's how they're kind of building up the subject. Is that okay? Yes, Vaikuntapati Prabhu, go ahead.
See, there is also one subject matter where Prabhupada had one, I'm not able to recall that incident exactly, where there was a clash between the managerial duties and spiritual duties. Something was there. I don't exactly remember the circumstance, but then Prabhupada, was it Prabhupada or Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati? I think it was Bhakti Siddhanta. So where he explained that managerials will have to follow what the spiritual requirement is.
Yeah. I mean,
there are,
correct. In our scenario, our example was both managerial because both are service.
okay.
So, I mean, as I made it very clear that unless there is, if for example, the instruction comes that, you are put into a situation where you're not even able to change 16 on, but yet you're put into a pressure. No, service is first. Then that is against the instruction. But your spiritual life has been maintained. And then you're asked, Prabhu, don't do this service, but do this service. That is a managerial responsibility. There's no conflict that way. So I hope this that clarifies. Thank you for that. Let's move forward another 1 or 2 points. Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam. This is clear with Sadhu Vartanam. And what happens next is Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidimina Aikantaki Harer Bhakti Utpatyeva Kalpate. Without faithful adherence to the rules of the scriptures, one so-called devotional service is simply a disturbance to society. One must follow the footsteps of devotees who are strictly faithful to parampara. Fifth point, Sadharma Pracha, inquiry about the real duties of life. Please read out.
The 64 items of sadhana bhakti offer many practical ways to increase our devotional service. One way is to simply make note of the questions that arise during our study and contemplation of Shastra and put these questions before a senior Vaishnava. This in itself is devotional service.
So, inquiring about the real duties of life. This is very important in relation to when we talk about for spiritual advancement. What kind of inquiry we ask, that makes a lot of difference. So, in relation to our spiritual authorities, our inquiry should also be about spiritual subject matter. One is about the content. It's not that your content would always help you move forward. Are you getting it? One is I'm making a spiritual inquiry. Atata Brahma Jigyasa, being inquisitive. For example, Arjuna told Lord Shri Krishna, Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam. Karpanya doshu pahata survava prachami tvam dharma samuda cheta. My dear Lord, I don't know what is good for me. Please instruct me. I become your disciple. Please instruct me. Similarly, if you take example of Dhritarashtra from Mahabharata, many times he would put himself in that situation, either to Vidurji or to Vyasdevji or to any great personality visiting. I don't know, what do I do? Please help me, please guide me. But there is a lot of difference. The content could have been same, but what happened after that is very different. In case of Arjuna, there was a transformation. In case of Dhritarashtra, there was never a transformation. So content is okay, but along with content, what is also very essential is submissiveness. So inquiry about the real duties of life is very good, very much needed, but there has to be submissiveness to follow those instructions. So there are many instances where we see individuals asking a question, maybe the same question, repeatedly, and have been repeatedly told what to do, but there is no submissiveness. Why no submissiveness? Because sometimes it's difficult to change our psychological condition. So that's why Sadharma Pracha, make special inquiries and as well as adhere to those instructions. So moving forward quickly now, then being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction, residing in a sacred place. These are the other 2 points mentioned. Uh, Following in the footsteps of saintly person, Prabhupada quotes an example of Buddhist philosophy like this. Then the 6th and 7th, if you see in the book, being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction, page number 62 for me. 7th, residing in a sacred place. Okay. So residing in a sacred place. Dham. Dham means where Lord always lives. Like this. So which means for us, Prabhupada said, our temples are such dham, living near to the temple like this. Then text number, the point number 8. Maybe let's make it last for today because I have will conclude early today. So let's take next. Accepting only what is necessary in dealing with the body. Vaikuntapati Prabhu, would you like to read what is given in the book? The paragraph. Okay, please go ahead.
I'll read, Prabhu. I will read.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Where is it? Yeah. So accepting only what is necessary. In the Naradiya Purana, it is directed, one should not accept more than necessary if he is serious about discharging devotional service. The purport is that one should not neglect following the principle of devotional service, nor should one accept the rulings of devotional service that are more than what he can easily perform. For example, it may be said that one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra at least 100,000 times daily on his feet. But if this is not possible, then one must minimize his chanting according to his own capacity. Generally, we recommend our disciples to chant at least 16 rounds on the japa beats daily, and this should be completed. But if one is not even able to chant 16 rounds, then he must make it up the next day. He must be sure to keep his vow. If he does not strictly follow this out, then he is sure to be negligent. That is offensive in the service of the Lord. If we encourage offenses, we shall not be able to make progress in devotional service. It is better if one fixes up a regulative principle according to his own ability and then follows that vow without fail. That will make one advance in spiritual life.
So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning 2 points here, accepting only what is necessary. One is in relation to bodily needs and another is in relation to spiritual advancement. What is the point in relation to bodily needs? The more we accept, then it requires more maintenance. So a lot of time gets consumed over there. So take what is necessary, so keep yourself fit and you have availability of time. Just like if you have a more expensive car or maybe more expensive house, then equivalently your taxes, whatever those society charges increases. So like that. So accept what is necessary. In relation to bhakti, spiritual life, what do you mean by accept only what is necessary in relation to spiritual advancement? The point is, if in case your capacity is to chant 16 rounds, then do not commit or take a vow of chanting 32 rounds. Any example when we take such commitments? I'm going to do this, and Kartik month. We all get excited, riled up during the Kartik month, and some vows are taken. So Prabhupada is saying, well, do what you can do. Don't do something which you cannot do. Why? Because then it leads to seva prad. You're taking a vow, then I'm going to chant 32 rounds. But now you chant 16 rounds. What's the point over here? First thing. Second thing, the disadvantage of that is, one is aparat. Prabhupada clearly writes, this is offensive in the service. If we encourage offenses, we shall not be able to make progress in devotional service. That's the first point. Second point is, we will become discouraged. oh, I cannot do bhakti. I'm so useless. In both the ways, it affects us. Therefore, it's mentioned accepting only what is necessary. Let's take one more point. We conclude with the number 9. Observing fasting on Ekadashi. Please, somebody read out. In Brahma Vaivarta Puran.
In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is said that one who observes fasting on Ekadashi is freed from all kinds of reactions to sinful activities and advances in pious life. The basic principle is not just to fast, but to increase one's faith and love for Govinda or Krishna. The real reason for observing fasting on Ekadashi is to minimize the demands of the body and to engage our time in the service of the Lord by chanting or performing similar service. The best thing to do on fasting days is to remember the pastimes of Govinda and to hear his holy name constantly.
I remember when I did my first Nirjal Ekadashi, I really had almost near-death experience. On Janmashtami, I had got used to doing some amount of fasting, but doing a Nirjala Ekadashi, I was living with friends in America those days. I was studying, and they all said, "Abhi Nirjala Ekadashi." This was an initiated devotee. So he had got initiated in Bombay and moved there, and he was studying also in the same batch as I was studying, doing masters. So he told me, "Okay, so now tomorrow is Nirjala Ekadashi. We all gonna do Nirjala Ekadashi." There's a lot of social pressure also. How can I say no? He's there around me. He will say, "Hey, how did you not do?" And plus, there's a small kitchen where we cook. So now, which means no cooking, nothing. So I said, okay, Nirjala Ekadashi, well, we'll try. So I remember, for me, it was like do or die experience. After noon only, I was like, Abhi Purana guy. My first Nirjala Ekadashi experience. But I'll tell, he had done Nirjala Ekadashi in the past, but his whole idea of Nirjala Ekadashi is because my mentor have told me Nirjala Ekadashi karna hai, jaise taise Nirjala Ekadashi karo. But whole day he spent his time in sleeping. I asked him, why are you sleeping? He said, if I can sleep, I would not remember hunger. you know, and because he slept, somehow he slept so much in the whole daytime that poor fellow could not get sleep whole night. And even, of course, I was also not sleeping. I can tell you, he would have chanted maybe 16 and half round at max, not even 17 rounds. And I somehow struggled to chant 16 rounds. Later on, then when I kind of read this or when I heard from others, the idea of Ekadashi, the idea of fasting is not to fast and torture your body. The idea is to remember Krishna. If you're not able to remember Krishna, then what is the point? So that's the difference between a principle and a detail. So we looked into, no, not principle, that's the difference between Niyam Agraha and Niyam Agraha. So the point Prabhupada mentioned here, the real reason for observing fasting on Ekadashi is minimize the demands of the body and engage our time in the service of the Lord by chanting. Somebody can be happy by eating Ekadashi feasting, okay. Somebody can do Nirjala, that's okay. But in either of the situation, anyone and everyone should try to chant extra rounds, hear more. That's the idea about observing fasting on Ekadashi. All right, so with this, we'll pause here for today. If in case somebody has one or two points, we can take it and we'll continue. Like this, there are 64 items which are described. Many interesting things going to get, unfolded through Prabhupada purports here to these points. So we'll discuss that as we move forward. Thank you all for your kind attention. Yes, Jagadhu Shila Prabhupada ki, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki. Jai. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna.